morning. Great morning. Great morning. Yes, I'm Edwina B., known as Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. And in the past, I would just take for granted that I'm going to wake up this morning. I just take for granted that everything is going to go my way today. I just take for granted that I'm all that a can of paint, the dip, the chips, the dip, and a can that came in it. hmm That's the way I felt 33 plus years ago before I was put on a spiritual path to spiritual recovery from a 14-year addiction and mental illness. And so I am presenting to you right now how I would have came on if I ever thought I would have been on TV, because I just thought it was about image time, right? And so I just need to ask you a question. If I'm about transparency and authenticity, that term or those terms you may have a definition for. And I just believe that I may think something, but it's in my behavior that is manifested, okay? Or it's not manifested because I listen to the behavior and not the talk. All right, so I'm in front of you with a mask on, makeup, a low cut shirt exposing my cleavage, okay? Now, and if I want to talk to you about spirituality, transparency, and authenticity, would you believe me in this form? Guess what? If the tables were turned, I would not believe you because I would think that you are perpetrating a fraud. If you are talking about transparency and authenticity, why you got that stuff on? That's not the real you. And so many of you, like me, I would concentrate on the way the person looked and got distracted by that and not listen to this message. And so I do this purposely every morning just to ask you a question. Would you like to listen from this person, or would you like to listen from the real person with no mask? If you're like me, no mask, the real person. That is what total transparency is for me. All right. And so, what I want to do is to free you like I've been set free 33 plus years ago. From recovery, emerge enlightened and empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. And so, underneath a parked car 33 plus years ago, you don't believe me? Here's the evidence. Here's my book, right? Here's my book underneath that parked car. Here's proof of my journey from high school to a 14-year addiction to getting my master's in human services in 1997, and now I'm obtaining my doctorate in biblical studies just to learn more about the God who met me, delivered me, and prepared me from underneath that parked car. I'll tell you about that a little later. So I got your attention, right? Because how can that person underneath the parked car be sitting in front of you today? Well, it was God's grace and mercy. But what he did for me then, I need to continue to do for him now, to remove the mask and let the real me, the one that God made me, be sitting before you today. So the mask must go. When I removed the physical mask, I learned to apply 12 spiritual principles for 33 plus years to address all the mask I had internally because I thought something was wrong with me. But I learned through the process of spiritual recovery in a spiritual program within a spiritual fellowship that there's nothing wrong with me. There was plenty that happened to me. And so, because I was prepared to sit before you today, just like this, it's a lie. It's not who I am. Okay? And so I'm going to remove the mask so we can get to the real session for today. All right? So the mask must go. Okay. The makeup definitely must go. Mm. Oh, hell to the no. Don't need none of this. Don't want none of this. Okay? I love me just the way I am. I'm gonna surprise you. Cocaine and alcohol took my teeth. Mhm. But recovery gave me, I think this is my third set. And I'm only going to put these back in for articulation and pronunciation purposes. But you can see this is real transparency. And I love me today because God showed me I love you just the way you are. And so I want to help set you free, if you're not already free, and being the real you. And so through my presentation today, I'm going to show you how 12 spiritual principles, along with the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family, and most recently, the Transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja. And you say, well, why I got these teeth back up? Just to show you, guess what? If I put them down, you just think I came before you with no teeth. But I have them. But I take them out for a purpose. I remove the makeup for a purpose. I remove the wig for a purpose. And guess what? I'm even going to button up this. Hey, you know why. You know why. You know why. So I ain't even going to waste my time. Okay? I ain't trying to distract you from any way, shape, form, or fashion the spiritual message my God has given me today for you. Rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, soldiers of the Lord. So when I get up in the morning, right, because I take my dentures out at night, put them back in the morning. Then I get ready for my podcast after I do my half-hour meditation every morning and getting prepared for my AA meeting. So when I do get up and out, this is my natural hair, right? And so all I got to do is get this pick. Remember the pick, y'all? People say, how you make your hair stand up? Okay, it's called uh, from my heritage, from my culture. Yes, 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 yes. And then I take this little brush, smooth out the sides, and voila. I'm done. No makeup. What? Let's get the rolling. All right. And so I thank you for joining me once again because he allowed us to rise this morning. Therefore, we should give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, and the worship, but most importantly, the acknowledgement that he is. All of us will have our knee bowing experience if you haven't had yours yet, but I had mine 33 plus years ago underneath a parked car, getting high with my stepson, doing all kind of sexual favors for him, suffering from the disease of addiction and mental illness. He wanted to do harm to me. After he transformed into a violent person, I transformed into a person who feared for her life, started running from him, got a flashback from the past by playing hide and seek. If I just get underneath the bed, they can't find me. Well, as I continued to run, I saw a car. I said, if I just get underneath that parked car, he can't hurt me. The flashbacks continued. I only weighed 90 pounds, face all sunken in, dark circles around my eyes, face, all sunken in like this. Short hair, all matted, right? And I only had a few teeth then, right? While underneath that parked car, my life continued to flash before me. Edwina, you're 34. Why are you underneath this parked car? You was the class vice president, co-captain of the cheerleader team, ambitious of being a model, an actress, a phys ed teacher. You were voted 1-2 most likely to succeed, deemed the smartest of your parents' 6 kids. Your children admired and respected you. Why are you underneath a parked car? The flashbacks continued because, as an alcoholic, a drug addict, and a prostitute with mental illness, I committed murder. Yes. I had an abortion because I didn't want the world to know who the father was. I was too ashamed, right? And too embarrassed to acknowledge him. And I took life. So, yes, I committed murder. And I said, whatever happens to me from henceforth, I will deserve. I've been raped several times, passed around like a bucket, spit on, called all kinds of names. Homeboys say, be, do me, and do my boys too. If you don't do it right, I'm going to sick these dogs on you. You're either going to yield or you're going to die. I yield. Didn't want to. I yielded in a lot of situations that was very degrading, very humiliating. Why? Because unknowingly to me, I was a slave. I was a slave to the drugs. I was a slave to prostitution. And guess what? I yield because I just wanted to get one more. Passed around like a bucket, spit on, called all kinds of names. I robbed dead bodies, stepped over dead bodies, set people up, got set up, jumped in and out of cars to turn tricks, jumped out of buildings to save my life, even broke into my children's house. I just wanted to go to sleep, but they came back too early and I had to get out the same way I came in and wound up falling off the roof. Visited churches where my mother was and was not allowed to come in because of the way I looked, the way I smelled. And I would only seek her after I had been raped or beat up. And I wanted my mommy, but the church wouldn't let me in. And I had a disdain for the church and the people in it. Yes. And so now, while underneath that parked car, somewhere deep down inside of me came out these words, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. And I was put on the pathway to recovery that's spiritual in nature through a 12-step spiritual program within a 12-step fellowship. Yes. And just recently incorporated the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family and transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja. So in my 33 plus years, I'm now obtaining my doctorate degree in biblical studies. I have a talk show for over 32 years entitled Choosing a New Way of Life. Yes, I showed you my book that I wrote, which are journal entries. I'm showing you my theses that I wrote for my dissertation, right? And getting my my doctorate in biblical studies is only to write about 15 to 20 people to share their experience, their strength, their hope, their wisdom on how the 12 spiritual principles help them to identify a God of their understanding. Agnostics, atheists, believers, non-believers, want to believe, don't believe, can't believe. But we all had the same disease, co-occurring disorders, mental illness, and chemical dependency. And so when I cried out those words, I was set on this pathway to spiritual recovery that offers spiritual experiences, awakenings, transformation to achieve a psychic change. And so that's why I said the mask must go, but I must demonstrate, as the Ruiz family talks about in the 4-step inventory talks about, going back as far as we can remember to learn where those attitudes, ideas, behaviors, belief systems were formulated, called domestication, based on lies. I've been living a lie all my life. Yes. But because of that cry for help, I had that knee bowing experience. And I confess with my tongue that he is Lord. Why? Because of what you see in front of you right now. I couldn't do it. My mama couldn't do it. She was limited. No human power could relieve our disease of alcoholism. God could and would if he was sought. Okay? And so that's why I am here before you. Let's take a drink of coffee. I also want to invite you on April 27th. I do my 3rd virtual presentation that's free on the journey to transparency and authenticity. It's an orientation and how to begin building the foundation to transparency and authenticity, or expanding and increasing it to a spiritual level so that you too can be set free from recovery, emerge enlightened and empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. Now on Sundays, I'm here with y'all for a whole hour because my AA meeting that I've been going to for the last 33 plus years every day in one way, shape, form, or fashion. Why? Because I got high every day. I prostituted every day. So you mean to tell me for 1 hour each day, I can't go to a spiritual fellowship that offers spiritual principles, spiritual experiences to obtain a spiritual transformation, to achieve that psychic change? 1 hour? Are you kidding me? I can do that. I often compare my recovery with the world I lived before it. And I do it like this, y'all. I got high 24/7, 7 days a week for 14 years. And you asking me just to go to a meeting for 1 hour? Oh, I can do that. I jumped in and out of cars to turn tricks, prostituting. Yes. You mean to tell me I can't have somebody pick me up or pick them up to go to a meeting? I can do that. I read all kind of how to look pretty books and lose weight book and porno books. You mean to tell me I can't read my 12 spiritual programs literature? I can do that. I got on my knees to give service. They would say, B, if you don't do it right, you're going to do it again and again. On my knees, on my back. You mean to tell me I can't get on my knees to pray? Ooh, I can do that. Yes. So you see, the service work and my addiction compared to the service work and my recovery, it's a no-brainer. But only when the student is ready will the teacher appear. And as the student remains ready, he will become a spiritual student that's ready, so the spiritual teachers can appear. And that's why I want to share with you my journey to total transparency and total authenticity, so that I can practice all that I've learned on a spiritual realm to the day he calls me home. I'll end with this. Donald Lawrence song says spiritual. We are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. No, we are spiritual beings encased in walking this natural experience here on earth, and it's called life. When we apply spiritual principles to all earthly matters, I can wear the world like a loose garment. Shake loose, as Vicky Wyman would say. Okay? And so I want to just encourage you, if it's not me, somebody else, right, to go to an open AA meeting, get the book by the Ruiz family. Wait a minute, here it is, right? The 5 agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions. Always do your best. And be skeptical, but learn to listen. And then I want you to get the book from Dr. Sonja of P3 University. Oh my gosh, I tell you, I'm on a spiritual high. And now I'm presently writing my 3rd book to let you know the updates from these journals that I wrote nearly 33 plus years ago. See what I mean? Recovery is about being prepared for things yet to come. Being prepared for the God that I now know, who is a loving and caring God, compared to the one I used to know and was taught that he was a punishing God. When I surrender all, whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do. Wherever you need me to go, I'm going to go. However long it takes, that's how long it takes, right? And so, can I just share this one thing with you, right? You know how some of us, think we know everything, right? You can't tell me nothing. That's the pride and ego. And so when I was in one of my rehabs, three things happened, okay? The first thing that happened was when my team called me in for a meeting, and they say, Edwina, you seem to have all the answers for everybody in this rehab. They calling you the Miss Junior Therapist. But for some reason, we can't tell you anything. Can you do us a favor and tell us what happens to you every time you pick up a drink or a drug? I was like, I'm so used to conniving for attention and manipulating for attention, but here the attention was given to me. I was like, uh, uh, but something that happened from underneath that parked car took over and said, okay. And I began to share my pattern of what happens to me every time I picked up a drink or a drug. I'm not going to go through it now, but at the end of me sharing that, she said, Amina, do you think you're powerless over alcohol and that your life is unmanageable? I said, you damn right. You know why? I heard myself tell myself the truth. I had a problem with you telling me about me, but I heard myself tell myself the truth. And I was like, wow, I am powerless over alcohol and my life is truly unmanageable. She said, do me a second favor. She said, put your hand in front of your face. I was like, huh? So I put my hand in front of my face. She said, what do you see? I said, I see my hand. She said, Edwina, what do you see? I said, I see my hand. Edwina, what? I said, I see my hand. She said, that's the point. As long as you got your hand up, you can't hear nothing, receive nothing, and you will never get the help that's available. She said, put your hand down and let the 8 of us tell you what we see. Bam! The light bulb went off. I was like, wow. As long as I had my hand up, I wasn't letting you in, God, and nobody in. Put your hand down and let us tell you what we see. And you can get the help that's available. That turned my life around, even though I didn't stop then, but the seed was planted. And so here go the hit, y'all. She said, we want you to go to a long-term treatment. She said, 30 days ain't enough for you. 60 days ain't enough for you. She said, 90 days ain't enough for you. I said, well, Dan, how much time you think I need? She said, we suggest you take a year. How long you been getting high? I said, 14 years. You can't do a year? Okay. And she said, when you go to this recovery center, and it was up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, she said, they're all going to require you to make meetings. The same kind of meetings you've been attending but not listening to. And she said, we want you to make 90 meetings in 90 days. I was like, hey, go on. That's a lot of meetings. She said, okay, can you do me a favor? I said, what? She said, can you make a meeting a day for 3 months? Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Huh? Same 90 days? Okay. So that's how smart we think we are. And we need somebody who know what it's been like to tell us the same thing in a different way. Okay? So now, what I want to do is, again, invite you to April the 27th to a free virtual presentation on the journey to transparency and authenticity. It's an orientation, and I'm going to be sharing with you how to build the foundation, okay? All right, and I also want to say to you that if you are in need of a keynote speaker, a seminar presenter, workshop trainer, someone to come and talk to your staff as well as your clients about the journey from addiction into recovery, I have a lot of evidence, 33 plus years of it, right? I have the manifestation that we can do any and all things, right? And it's because of the student being ever so ready, because I don't know everything. As a matter of fact, I choose not to know nothing. So this way I can keep learning, all right? And so if you need a spiritual coach, a spiritual consultant for you, your organization, your agency, please call me. Not only can I help individuals and staff, but I can help corporations, government entities, the like. If they have employee assistance programs, I can share with them the training manual that I wrote to train and teach coworkers to become EAP reps so that they can be the liaison from management to their coworkers so they don't lose their job because of co-occurring disorders. They go to treatment. So I have a wealth of information that was provided to me and that I used because I needed to be prepared for things yet to come to do my Creator's will. He knows I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. I can laugh at myself today, and I love it. I love it. I love me today. I nurture me today. I respect me today. I care for me today. I believe in me today. Why? Because of these spiritual principles. Yes, we think we are human, and we are, but we are human beings. Those spirits that are out there, all types and kinds, right? Occupy this vessel, and their desires are manifested through us. So because of these spiritual principles, and now my religious home that I've been a part of for going on 18 years now, because I had to get over that disdain for the church and the preachers. Oh, yes. The preachers wouldn't let me in the front door, but some of them let me in the back door. Not to pray for me, but to get on my knees to provide them service. Are you kidding me? So I am so glad that through a dream, my God shared with me that I needed a shepherd, I needed a church family, and I needed to be directed, right? And identifying the God of my understanding. So kudos go to my pastors, Dr. Christopher Allen Bullock and Dr. Debbie Bullock of Canaan Baptist Church here in Newcastle, Delaware. So you see, I have the holistic approach. What I couldn't do for my children, I now do for my grandchildren. My grandchildren know the truth about their grandmother. Yes, they do. I will tell them first before anybody else tells them, because it's not anybody else's duty to tell mine the truth about me. My parents lied to me for whatever reason. Secrets were kept for whatever reason. And all it did was create chaos, hurt, harm, and danger. Yes. Not me. Oh, no, no, no. I'm not intimidated by no man. Joe Biden. Yeah, I call him Joe. The president of the United States. Yeah, me. I know his family, know his daughter, Ashley. Yes. I will meet him just the way I would meet a person on the street who is homeless and hungry, because it's not about the physical, it's about the spirit. And Joe, our president, calls me the hugger of Delaware. If you ever meet me, you may extend your hand and I may ask permission to hug you, and you will never, ever forget that hug. So you see, recovery is about being prepared for things yet to come. And Dr. Sonja says, if you didn't come from a wealthy family, let a wealthy family come from you. The Ruiz family says, be the light of the world. Don Miguel says, help me change the world. We are the light among many in this universe. Our heaven is here on earth, right next to hell. I choose heaven to be manifested here on this earthly journey by applying spiritual principles to all earthly matters, to just help save one more, to bring them to freedom from recovery, emerge enlightened and empowered, to give hope to just one more. Now, who that person is ain't none of my business. But I tell you what, I will let God use me as, what's that guy name? Bill Withers. Use me till you use me up. Thank you, Lord. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, and now I see. Your grace and mercy, your grace and mercy, your grace and mercy. Did you hear that? Your grace and mercy. To be honest, I forgot the following words. To be transparent, I forgot the following words. So let me say it. Oh, Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I want to praise you and thank you too, for it was your grace and your mercy that brought me through. You see how transparent I am? Listen, I'll tell on me in a minute. Ask people in my fellowship. I'm the most transparent person in the room and in the world. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you. If I have a question, I'm going to ask you. And it's not to judge, criticize, none of that. I don't want to make any assumptions, and I don't want to make any, I don't want to take anything personally, okay? All right, so I'm doing what Dr. Sonja, the Ruiz family, and my 12-step spiritual program is teaching me every day that I surrender my life and my will over to the care of God. But now, wait a minute now. I need to say that we practice these principles. I told you I'm transparent because there are sometimes, the human part of me just like, ooh, yeah. And I'll say, God, fellowship, I'll be right back. I'm going over here. I know. Only to run my behind back over it. And so I'm in touch with my awareness. I'm in touch with making conscious decisions and conscious choices. What keeps me out of trouble majority of the time now, I ask myself, Edwina, is what you want to say, what you want to do, what you want to ask, is it going to feed the flesh or is it going to feed the spirit? I have a choice today. God didn't take my will to choose. So majority of the time, I choose to feed the spirit and be so happy that I didn't yield to the human part of me. But guess what? Even when I do, I don't beat myself up. I learn more and more from those decisions and choices until it becomes natural for me. See, recovery is about progression, just like our disease of alcoholism is. But recovery is about self restoration, family restoration, and human restoration in this society. So you see, by applying all these spiritual principles, wisdom, knowledge, information, applications, that's when they work, when you apply them. All right, so that's enough of that. I told you I have enough time on Sunday. All right, so let's review what we have been learning through the daily reflections of Alcoholics Anonymous all week, okay? And so let me remove this and let me bring up the topics that we discussed this week, okay? And so, all right, so the first topic was on April the, wait a minute, that's wrong. Okay, wait a minute, y'all. Let me okay, here it is right here. Okay, I knew I did something. I knew I made a correction. See, sometimes you just got to be patient. Okay, here we go. On April the 17th, we talked about love and fears as opposites. Okay, love and fear as opposites. Okay, now you know in life you hear the term from people of the religious, spiritual, sectors, right? And they're saying things like faith and fear can't dwell in the same mind, or. And so when we talk about love and fear as opposites, I can only go back in my history through the 4-step inventory and by looking at the domestication process described by the Ruiz family. And I discover love, the word love, the word love, the word love. Actions varied, in my opinion, to some extent. All the love that I knew about was based on conditions, except for the love, I believe, of my mother. Because I even heard my dad say to my mom, they're your kids. They're your kids. You take care of them. See, we recall things and remember things, but I don't blame them because now I understand why. I experienced more fear than I experienced love. Why? Because my father was very abusive, demanded respect, was very dominating to his children and his wife. My father could come in the house a certain way, and we knew all hell was going to break loose. That's one reason why we went under the bed when we were very, very fearful. So, love and fear as opposites, okay? So, during my journey to recovery, no, during my journey of my addiction, there was no love. We pretended, we act like it. Oh no, you my homeboy. You know I love you, boo. Come on, give me some of that crack. Give me some of, oh, you know I love you. Ain't got to charge me. You know I love you. Conditions. And then fear of what happens to people with this disease and this co-occurring disorders. What happens to us? Fear sets in. We're going to be rejected. We're going to be harmed. We're going to be killed. We're going to be this. We're going to be that. Fear. No love. Fear. So love and fear as opposites. But these 33 plus years, I've learned the difference in unconditional love and fear, false evidence appearing real. That's the acronym for fear, right? Unconditional love and false evidence appearing real. And so when we used to be fearful and had fear in the past, we would F everything and run. We learn in this spiritual process to face everything and recover. Face everything and be restored. Face everything and be rejuvenated. Face everything and what? Mm, mm, mm. Reborn. How about that? So these acronyms that we give these words, right, can change our perspective. All right. So that was love and fear as opposites. Okay. The next one was, okay, uh, it says here, where you at? Okay, here it says, you at right here, right here. All right. Oh, here you go. Okay. The next one was self-honesty. Self-honesty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, self-honesty. Self-honesty. Mm. As a child, I had what I believe was an honest character until such time I realized that being honest can get your butt in trouble. Being honest can get other people hurt. And so I have learned to be dishonest from other people, to other people, and even to myself. During the addiction process, those attitudes, thoughts, ideas, behaviors, belief system only perpetuated themselves during my addiction. Mm-hmm. I wasn't honest about nothing. Not really. Not really. I wasn't honest that I was really hurting. I wasn't honest that I didn't know who I was. I wasn't honest that I didn't think nothing was wrong with me. I wasn't honest that people saw things that was happening and I didn't want to believe them. I wasn't honest when those guys raped me, when they beat me up. Yeah. When I inflicted harm on a child, when I inflicted harm on a 5-year-old boy. Yes. I didn't want to be honest about that. I wanted to know what it was like to smack a child. I wanted to know what it was like to have a wee wee inside me as a 14-year-old. Yes, I molested a 5-year-old boy as a babysitter. I wasn't going to tell nobody that. I was going to take that stuff to my grave, wanting to be in bed with my dad. Yes, I wanted to see what he did to my mama. Mm-hmm. So you see, I've been set free because of these spiritual principles. So through the spiritual principles, step one, when we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable, those therapists helped me to recognize by me sharing my own truth that I heard myself say for me to begin the honesty process. But let me tell you where the real honesty came underneath that parked car. Underneath that parked car. Underneath that parked car. 3 o'clock in the morning in the streets of Philadelphia, getting high and doing all kinds of sexual favors for my own stepson. Are you kidding me? Yes. 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 Take me out now or show me a better way. That was the first honest statement I made. That was my knee-bowing experience, where I confess with my tongue, whoever they say you are, take me out or show me a better way. Okay? And so I've been practicing self-honesty ever since. All right, let's go to the 19th, brothers and our defects. Okay? Now, I shared with you what defects are. Okay? We are all given God-given natural instincts. Survival, procreation, security, all those things that were God-given. But because we live in this world of sin and have a sinful nature, right? We are all guilty of letting those God-given instincts far exceed their intended purpose. I didn't know none of this. I just thought something was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And so in recovery, we recognize that a lot of those defects that all of us have clashed with each other, our brothers. And when I didn't get my way or they didn't get their way, they reacted, I reacted, we never responded. Mm-hmm. So I recognize, and it says in our literature, all human beings are ill to some extent. And all human beings can benefit from the 12 spiritual program. My buddy, Miguel Pozo, he teaches a class that says the 12 steps of life. The 12 spiritual steps of life can be applied to any and all things, okay? So now that we are in recovery, we learn how to first recognize the defects within ourselves, and we can see the defects in others because we are each other's mirror. And so the need to judge or to criticize or to make assumptions or to take anything personally, no, we practice not doing that. Why? Because we are all ill to some extent. And we who have the co-occurring disorder of mental illness and substance abuse, we are sick people trying to get well. Okay? All right, I'm going to leave the last 15 minutes to our topic for today. I see I got two more. Self-examination. All right. So this is where they say the men are separated from the boys and the girls from the women. Self-examination. When I wrote this journal early in recovery, I had no idea God was going to publish it. And because it was suggested by my temporary sponsor to, in essence, write down my thoughts, my actions, my fears, my goals, right? My behavior. Yeah. So in other words, I'm writing my self-examination, which is why it is so important for me to do my third book, which is a extension of my journals, right? Entries. And so self-examination is important. I told my one of my granddaughters yesterday, as a prostitute, I caught all kind of STDs and, didn't wash, didn't go to the doctors, nothing. And when I got into recovery and I went to the doctors to get an evaluation, he said, ma'am, you got all these things in your gums, and there's only two ways you could have got that. Eating off a dirty fork, and I stopped him. I said, or performing oral sex on a dirty, you know what. I know how I got it. Here it is. Authenticity and transparency. Heal me, fix me. Yes, yes. And so I will always test positive for syphilis. I had the antibody within me, but I had all other STDs. Mm-hmm. And so through that self-examination, I told my granddaughter, whenever you go to the doctors, tell them the truth. Tell them the truth now. All right, so let me go on, okay? All right, and so the next one was, right, cultivating faith, right? I shared the other day that many of us, faith is not new to us. We may use a different term that says, I take for granted that I'm going to wake up, but it's really faith. I take for granted that I'm going to be breathing, I'm going to live. That's, that's a form of faith. I take for granted that, my car is going to start. I take for granted that I'm going to get paid for my job. But you're really experiencing faith. And so the faith that I had before I joined a 12-step spiritual program is different now because of the cultivating of it. When I was relieved of that obsession and compulsion, if he removed that obsession and compulsion from me, he can do any and everything that keeps me from doing what he has prepared me to do. That's the strongest faith that I have and will continue to expand. All right. All right, let's go to the last one, which was yesterday. And it says, new soil, new roots. I shared with my home group yesterday, listen, when I read that daily reflection, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? Been reading it for 33 plus years, right? And sometimes, my humanness blocks, the sunlight, to my spirit. And because when I heard the word garden, my humanness just shut down. Why? Because when I think of gardens, I think of dog poop. I'm transparent. Look, y'all. Anytime I see dog poop, I have a yeah. My grandchildren say, Grandma, listen, let me tell you why. I was taking a shower one day in my first husband's house, and the dog didn't like me. And as I was taking a shower, he snuck in there. When I got out the shower and stepped out, I stepped in his poop. It went through my toes. I wanted to cut my foot off. So ever since then, I got a disdain for dog poop. Listen. And so that helped. Well, I ain't going to say that made me block out whatever it had to say, but I got in touch with it. The old soil that produced old roots changed for me underneath that park car. I was placed on new soil that is generating new roots. Okay, so let's get to our topic today, which is, okay, it says April the 23rd, my perspective of the AA Daily Reflection. AA is not a cure all. AA is not a cure all. I will be incorporating the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family and the transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja of P3 University. All right, let's dissect this baby. All right, so let's put that back up. Let's get over here. All right, this is the topic for today, right? It states from our co-founder, as Bill sees it off of page 285. It would be a product of false pride to claim that AA is a cure-all, even for alcoholism. The person in recovery writes, in my early years of sobriety, I was full of pride, thinking that AA was the only source of treatment for a good and happy life. It certainly was the basic ingredient for my sobriety, and even today, with over 20 years in the program, I am very involved in meetings, sponsorship, and service. During the first 4 years of my recovery, I found it necessary to seek professional help since my emotional health was extremely poor. There are those folks too who have found sobriety and happiness in other organizations. AA taught me that I had a choice to go to any length to enhance my sobriety. AA may not be a cure all for everything, but it is the center of my sober living. Woo! Listen, y'all. Listen, 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 listen. We are chosen, those who are in recovery, those who are introduced in recovery, who don't stay for whatever reason, right? But we are chosen. And so that's why I know that all that has happened and transpired through my entire life, and I'm going to say even from past lives, yes, the spirit never dies. Okay, it just occupies another vessel. And so I've learned, right, that I was chosen, obviously, because of the situations that this God that I didn't know saved me from, right? And so as a result, I know that I was destined for this. Why? Because it has given me the spiritual link that I've been missing to have my heaven here on earth. I've been living in hell, you too. But the Ruiz family said, no, mm-mm, mm-mm. The birds, the wind, the stars, the moon, the grass, wow, the snow. Oh my God, this is heaven. We are the ones, us as human beings are effed up. But when you have your knee bowing experience, that will change. And you will begin to seek and be put on a pathway to spiritual freedom. Yes, underneath that parked car was a spiritual awakening for me. And some people say it was a rude awakening, but I don't give a. It changed my life. Why? Because I was ready to die, even after trying to commit suicide. Or you choose if you want me to stay here or you want me to leave. You choose. I'm so glad he chose me to live in order to be prepared to sit here before you. But also, it talks about, during my co-founder's statement, right? He says here, right, that it will be a product of false pride to claim that AA is a cure-all, even for alcoholism. Okay, and so this is where sometimes I have to laugh at myself and laugh at/with others, because we think we know everything, right? We just think we know everything. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell us nothing. Nobody can show us nothing. And therefore, that is pride and ego. Some people call it stupidity. Somebody helped me with that one time. They said, Edwina, you got all the answers. Nobody can tell you nothing. If you was just missing one piece of the puzzle, if you were just missing one part of the information, is there a possibility you could be wrong? Yeah, you're right. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So that's why in our 12-step spiritual program, the 3 indispensable ingredients are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. The Ruiz family says, be impeccable with your word. Learn to not keep sinning against yourself and sinning against others. Be impeccable by saying, yes, yes, you are, you can, you will. No. all that negative things. No, that's sinning against yourself and sinning against others. Be impeccable with your word. That is our form of communication to others and even to ourselves and to God. Don't take anything personally. Wow, that's a tall order. All my life, we take things personally. My brother, Henry Hall, shared with me yesterday. He asked me and my oldest sister a question. Oh, what do you think about your brother? I said, it's not what we think about you, it's what you think about you. But he's still searching, and I understand that. That's why I'm going to stay in my spiritual program so that I can be a traction for my brother and not a promoter. Because he's still active in his addiction. I'm not judging. I'm not criticizing. This was the same brother that I turned on the crack who tried to commit suicide. Yes. When I found out he was in the hospital and I was in recovery, I shared about it, talked about it, prayed about it, and it was suggested to me that I stay here and let the God of our understanding take care of him. He's in the right place. You see what I mean? And so we learn, right, not to take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions. Always do your best and be skeptical. Learn to listen. And that's what I'm doing now. And I hope you are too. All right. So let's go here. We got 4 minutes to kind of decipher what the person in recovery shares his perspective. In my early years of sobriety, I was full of pride, thinking that AA was the only source of treatment for a good and happy life. Drinking is just an outside substance that we use to deal with inner issues. So putting down the drink is the first thing. My dear friend, Dr. Alvin Turner, when I interviewed him on my show, he said that we know the Western culture asked the wrong question. They asked, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? He said, that doesn't serve a purpose. He said, the right question should be, what happened to you? What happened to you? See the difference? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? No. What happened to you? Tell me. I'm here to listen. What happened to you? To make you think that way, feel that way, act that way? What happened to you? And that's what I had to do. I had to do with my parents, especially my father. He was the love of my life, but I had a hate-love relationship for him. Even though I looked just like him, act just like him. I needed, through these 12 spiritual principles, to find out, Daddy, these are happy tears. Daddy, what happened to you? What happened, Daddy? Tell me about your life. Yes. He told me to the best of his ability. He didn't tell me all about it, but you understand what I'm saying? And so that's why I love these spiritual tools and instruments that I'm learning, want to continue to learn, so I can expand, increase my spiritual wisdom, and stay on this spiritual path and make my heaven here on earth. Okay. And so during my recovery, I too, right, as this gentleman said, right, it certainly was the basic ingredient for my sobriety even today. With over 20 years, okay, I'm involved in the same thing he is, meetings, sponsorship, and service. However, during the first few years of my recovery, just like with him, I had to seek outside help. I had a counselor, I had a therapist, but the truth really came through my journal entries, right? And then when I became open to spiritual counseling and spiritual therapy, I wanted to share what happened to me, and they can explain some things to change my perspective and change the narrative. And so, no, AA is not a cure-all, But if I went to any length to get high, I'm going to any length to get restored to sanity, which only means soundness of mind. And so the last thing he writes, right? It says, okay, there are those folks too who have found sobriety and happiness in other organizations. I agree. AA taught me that I had a choice to go to any length to enhance my sobriety. AA may not be a cure all for everything, but it is the center of my sober spiritual living. All right. It's 8:30 and it's time for me to close. I'm so glad on Sundays I get to spend more time with you, right? And that we get to go over our weekly, daily readings and culminate them at the end by showing how one builds off the other, like the 12 steps, like the 5 agreements, the transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja. All right. And so I thank God that I kept a commitment to myself and started the continuation of the manifestations of these journal entries. Okay? I'm committed. I'm committed. Just like I'm committed to my recovery, I'm committed to my spiritual growth one day at a time and availing myself to help just one more. Just one more. Don't know who it is, ain't none of my business. But I've been prepared and equipped to be sitting here before you as now a verbal messenger. Thank you, Dr. Sonja. A spiritual coach or consultant, just to share with you how important it is to be totally transparent and totally authentic. But you have to start and practice somewhere. I love me today. I'm in love with recovery. I'm in love with my God because I know what love is now. And I'm practicing it every day. Challenging, but when it's unconditional, I am the light of the world. And I can change the world by practicing these spiritual principles in all my affairs. Okay, I got to go. If it's God's will that we are rejoined tomorrow, I'll be here, and I pray that you are too. All right. So remember to look me up if you need a speaker, a coach, or a consultant, and definitely come to my virtual workshop, virtual presentation that's free Thursday the 27th. Okay. Love you. Be blessed, and then make the best of this day that we will never, ever see again. Listen to the birds, feel the wind, feel the sun on your skin. Inhale his love, exhale his love. But most importantly, acknowledge that he is.